Good morning Year 6. I hope yesterday's lesson was okay for you. Today's lesson builds upon that, and we are learning to know equivalent fractions, decimals and percentages. So a lot of today's lesson is consolidating everything we've been doing really over the last few months when we were learning about fractions, and then we spent some time on decimals just before Christmas, and now this is the final bit of this topic when we are looking at percentages. So when you come in, usually in school, obviously not at school at the moment, we do a little bit of mixed maths. So we will start today's lesson with some mixed maths as well. So we have 4 questions for you there, and it's probably good at this moment to pause the video, have a go at those 4 questions, and then I will talk through how they should have been solved when you've done them. Okay, so we have 4 questions here. We have a fractions question, a division fractions question, then we've got a multiplication, then we've got a BIDMAS question, and then finally we have a division question. So looking at number 1 first of all, we have 2 8s divided by 4. So we had 2 8s and that was going to be split between 4 people. So remembering the procedure that we do with this, it's one of these confusing things sometimes with fractions. Even though it's the division sign, it's actually a multiplication that we do with the denominator. So multiply the denominator by the whole number, 8 times by 4, which is 32, and the numerator stays the same, gets carried over. So it's 2 over 32. That can also be simplified using that method that we talked about. In my class we talked about the Connor method, didn't we? When we halved the numbers till you can't halve them anymore. So that could be halved going down, half of 2 is 1, half of 32 is 16. Remembering that either of those answers are fine because they are both equivalent, they're both identical in size. Right, moving on to number 2 now. It's a multiplication, a 4-digit by a 2-digit. So starting off with the units first of all. So 5 times by 3, 15, the 1 gets carried over. 5 times by 8 is 40, add the 1, 41. 5 times by 1 is 5, add the 4 is 9. 5 times by 3 is 15. There's nothing left to multiply, so we can just write it in there. So this first line, we have times by 5. On this next line now, we are now going to times by the 20, because we've got the 25 there. 20 and 5 is 25. We've just split it up. Now, because we are timesing by 20 here, remembering to add in that 0, because that way we can just go through doing 2 times 3, 2 times 8, etc. instead of having to do 20 times 3, 20 times 8, which is a harder calculation. So that's why we put that 0 in there, because we're multiplying by 20. Now we've used these numbers up here, so we can cross them out so we don't get confused. And then we can go through times in the 2, remembering though this is in the tens column, so it actually does stand for 20. So 2 times by 3, which is 6. 2 times by 8, which is 16. 6 goes there, the 1 goes over on the next column. 2 times by 1 is 2, don't forget to add that 1 on, which is 3. And 2 times by 3, which is 6. Now remember, this second number will always be larger. If it's not larger, you have to go back and look again because you've gone wrong somewhere. That number will always be larger because this number is always larger than that number. And remember, you add 20 and 5 together, it gets to 25. So we need to do an addition here to add up these 2 numbers to get the total answer for this. So 5 add 0 is 5. 6 add 1 is 7. 9 add 6 is 15. 5 goes there. The 1 goes over in a column so we can continue to add. 5 add 3 is 8, add 1 is 9, 6 add 1 is 7. Remembering to add in comma 3 towards the end to make it easier to read. 79,575. Right, moving on to number 3, the BIDMAS question. We've got 3 squared times by 3, add 3. So remembering the rules of BIDMAS, there are no brackets, so we look at the indices first of all. 3 squared. Now that's not 3 times 2, remember, that is 3 by 3, 3 times by itself. So 3 times 3, which is 9, and then we can rewrite the question. So BIDMAS, no brackets, we've done indices, there's no division, there is a multiplication. So this is the calculation we look at here. 9 times by 3, which is 27. Add on this final 3, gets us to the answer of 30. Looking finally at number 4. Now, some of you will have realised there are 2 different ways that we could have done this. We could have written it out using the factor method, or we could have written it out by writing out our 15 times tables here. So what I will do, I will write out both methods, just because some of you will have done it in one way, some of you will have done it in another. So if we were to write out, first of all, our 15 times tables, you can see I've written them out to 5. I don't think we need to go further than that, but we'll see. How many times does 15 go into 7? It doesn't, so the 7 gets carried over. How many times does 15 go into 75? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. How many times does 15 go into 4? It doesn't, so the 4 gets carried over. How many times does 15 go into 45? 1, 2, 3 times to get us the answer of 503. So what I'll do now, I'll do the same question, but I'll do it in the factor method, because some people will have done it in that way as well, and we should still have got to that same answer of 503. So if I write out the question again, using the factor method. Now, looking at 15, what 2 numbers can we multiply together to get to 15? Obviously got 1 and 15, there's not much point in doing that because it'd just be the same as the method we've just done. Hopefully you've realised that 3 and 5, so times 3 and 5 together gets us to 15, so we can divide by one of the factors first of all, then take the answer and divide it by the second factor. So we know that 5 and 3 are our factors, so we'll divide by 5 first, and then our answer will come down here and we'll divide it by 3. So how many times does 5 go into 7? It goes in once, with 2 left. How many times does 5 go into 25? 5 times. How many times does 5 go into 4? It doesn't. How many times does 5 go into 45? It's 9 times. Remembering we take our answer now, 1,509, and we divide it by 3, divide it by our other factor. And if everything goes right, we should get to the exact same answer we got previously when we wrote out our 15 times tables, and we should get to 503. So let's see. How many times does 3 go into 1? It doesn't, so it gets carried over. How many times does 3 go into 15? It goes in 5 times. How many times does 3 go into 0? It doesn't. How many times does 3 go into 9? It is 3 times. And we can see we've got the exact same answer there. Doesn't matter which way you did it, which way you prefer, which way is your most efficient method. So once you get the answer of 503, that is all good. So that's the mixed maths to start the lesson, and now we will begin our lesson.